Rick Owens called his new collection Walrus. Now, you'd be pretty hard-pressed to discern exactly how walruses inserted themselves on the catwalk today, unless you thought about the Beatles song, I Am the Walrus. The mind-expanding power of that song was very present here. But you're talking with this collection about the girls from California that you remember from your youth. You have a particular inclination towards, you know, the darker side of, the bright side of California. So I'm wondering whether the elements that you're bringing back from your youth into this collection are a kind of reflection of that.
There's absolutely kind of no darkness, I think, in this collection. There's no edge, almost. I'm thinking of pure, joyful, spirited, and when I say mountain girls, there was a school, there was this Camp Nelson, that was up in the mountains, and those kids had to be bussed in specially, and when it snowed too heavily, they were stuck up there. They would come down, and they were like gods. They were all these beautiful specimens of teenagedom.
The other element in this collection that intrigues me, which is also about LA, the city that you can't go back to, is that you were always so obsessed with Hollywood, old Hollywood glamour, the great designers like Adrian and Travis Banton and the people who made clothes for those goddesses. And in this collection, I notice you're using bugle beads and ostrich feathers, which of course are archetypal George Hurrell props.
Right. We had the bugle beads custom made in Murano because they're extra long, because I like to exaggerate everything and to make everything like oversized, like an American would. So I'm kind of taking these Hollywood tropes and kind of dragging them through the Belle Epoque of Paris that I was always fascinated with too, and kind of doing an American's blunt interpretation of everything, kind of reducing them and simplifying them. And almost, I realize that, you know, I kind of make cartoons out of things a lot of times because I like to simplify and kind of get to the point.
But it seems kind of typically perverse that the show is called Walrus, after the men's show that you showed earlier in the year. The notion of this creature that is not really comprehensible to us, this strange, kind of slightly alien being, that you're building this world around for this particular show.
When I'm making clothes, I'm trying to think what makes sense to me right this minute without thinking of references from the 90s or references I'm talking about references from my youth, but I'm also thinking of myself in the greater context of the universe and eternity, which sounds very lofty. And it's not really. I'm just trying to think of what makes sense in this moment in the history of the world. And it's not like I really am qualified to tell us. I'm just providing a few options that I think make sense to me and that just feel right. This collection, maybe as a result of me having chosen that name, became very pretty. It became very fragile, very delicate, and very confectionery. And I've never gone quite this far with confection before.
As in sweetness, confection.
It's in sweetness and elaborateness and in daintiness.
I think it's so intriguing that your defiance has moved towards this acceptance of fragility and delicacy, and you're not raging against the dying of the light, you're elevating the sort of fragile essence in the end. It's not about brutality, it is about the way that beauty sustains us. I mean, what John Keats said, truth is beauty, beauty is truth. That's all you know and all you need to know.
After 15 years, I feel more comfortable. I mean, I've learned so much, and I have the confidence to indulge myself in something like this a little bit more than I might have 10 years ago, 5 years ago.
If you want to know more of what I think about fashion, if you even care what I think about fashion, don't forget to subscribe to The Business of Fashion on YouTube.